Welcome to Death and Aliens, an in-depth look at horror and sci-fi TV from two friends who vaguely know what they're doing. I'm MK.
And I'm Courtney.
How are you?
No, I am actually thriving, I think. I know I've said that a few times over the past few weeks. I was lying, but I think I'm actually thriving now. I've got my whole apartment redone. I spent the whole weekend washing laundry, washing dishes, just redoing everything in my apartment. They came and checked for lead today. Because they do that every 3 years, I guess. The guy was super nice. He said that it doesn't seem like there's an issue, but also there probably is an issue in some frame in one of my doors or my window, because he said someone above me had that problem, but he was like, it's not like a moving out situation. It's just they may have to change out your door. And so he was like, it shouldn't be a big deal or whatever. He's like, even if it's the wall for some reason, they have paint they put over it, or they'll just take out the wall and put a new one in, but you should be fine. I was like, okay, that sounds a little more dramatic than just changing out a door frame, but I guess that's fine too. So we'll see.
Maybe if they have to do that, your rent will go down for a little bit while they're taking out your fucking wall.
Maybe they'll put me in a nice hotel. But maybe I'm really hoping if anything, I'm hoping it's the closet by the stove, because that door is a little off the hinge and always has been since I moved in. And so
replacing that door would be nice.
Right, because it's the top hinge is just angled off. You have to lift the door a bit when you open it and close it. And it's been that way since I moved in. I don't know what happened because it wasn't me. And it's not the end of the world, but if something's got to change, that could change. I'd be okay.
Yeah.
But since my life is very domestically boring, but I'm feeling better. How are you?
Well, first of all, I just want to say welcome to the 250th episode of Death and Aliens.
Oh my God. That's so many episodes.
So many episodes.
How old am I? 75 now?
Apparently.
But happy 250.
250. That's about how many episodes of Stargate SG-1 there are.
Great. So we'll revisit this in 5 years.
Yeah, no. There's only 213, actually.
We're so prepared. We're so ready.
But speaking of Stargate and how many episodes there are, I went to Phoenix last week.
And we've only vaguely talked about this. I'm so excited.
Yeah. First of all, the line to me, Christopher Judge, was so much longer than I was expecting it to be.
Such a gem.
Yeah. And he genuinely was such a gem. A couple people in line in front of me, there was this little kid in a Spider-Man costume who wanted to show him something from one of the Marvel games, because he's the voice of Black Panther. And he was just genuinely so excited to talk to this kid, and his face lit up the way that you can't be faking that. And then a couple people in front of me, there was a man who was visually impaired, and he was just took the guy's hands while he was talking to him so that he knew he was there, and was just really super, super nice. I made friends. There was the guy in front of me in line. I feel so bad because he introduced himself to me, and I genuinely can't remember if he said his name was Chris or Greg, because that was so long ago. Even though it wasn't, it was 3 days ago. Yeah.
Well, hi, Chris, Greg.
But he was wonderful. He was a year older than my dad, and talked about going to cons with his kids. And so he and I were talking about me and my dad, and we just bonded, and we were talking, and we were in line together, and we were in line for an hour and a half. So
that's how you form the strongest bonds.
Yeah. And he was lovely. He is a nuclear engineer, and so he's way fucking smarter than I will ever be. But he showed me pictures from his daughter's wedding. He showed me pictures from his daughter's wedding, and he has a picture of the Core 4 cast members in their 1969 costumes. And Christopher Judge was the third autograph he had. And Amanda Tapping's the only one he doesn't have yet, all in that same 1969 photo. So that was cool. And then the kids behind me were making their own little video series. They were clearly awkward, new, never did this before, didn't know how to ask people questions. But they were adorable because they had a little shtick. He was carrying around a wooden spoon and he was asking people, "What's the scoop of the day?" And
Stop.
and then he had Christopher Judge sign the wooden spoon. It was precious.
That
Um,
is ridiculous, and I love it more than anything in the world.
yeah. But
Ugh.
Christopher Judge was so wonderful. He was so funny and so humble. And like I was talking to him about how we just love him so much. And we which I told him about the podcast, gave him my business card. We were chatting. But I was talking about how I genuinely think that like Teal'c is a masterclass in acting because like he is not that person. Like he's so friendly, he's so bubbly, he's such a great like
So
personality.
emotionally,
Yeah,
like,
and Teal'c
full.
is so like serious and he was just like genuinely touched by the things that I had to say. And he also is literally got pythons for arms. I like it's a little intimidating, but he was fantastic and he like was just like so sweet taking time to like talk to every single person. Um and right next to his table was the other table that I went to because Ryan Hurst. And also at one point, because they're both in the God of War series, so that's why they were together at the con. But
Mhm.
at one point, Chris got up and hugged Ryan, and I got a picture of that, and that was the best. But after I got out of the hour and a half line for Chris, there was quite literally no one in Ryan's line. Like his table was just empty. He was just hanging out at the table with his wife and their baby girl. And so I walk over to the booth and I look at the pictures and I literally go, "Oh, thank God." And the girl who was selling the pictures was like, just laughed. And I go, "Sorry, I was just afraid there weren't going to have any pictures of him as Chick for the autograph pictures." And she was laughing. She goes, "No." She was like, "Oh, no, I understand." Because she was like, "This one, it's a picture from the Mysterious Benedict Society." She goes, "This one is brand new because I've been fighting him on it because it's my daughter's favorite show. And I wanted him to have pictures of it." So I take it over to him with the thing saying I'm going to get the autograph, and his manager is like, "Oh my God, I love when people want Chick pictures." And so I was like talking to the two of them about how it was such a great role, and I was talking to him about how much we loved the fact that he like was in so much control of Chick and the costume and the attitude and everything. And then he and I had like a 10-minute in-depth conversation about the scene where he gets shot and the banter between him and Alex.
God, I hope he doesn't listen because I really hated on Chick a lot. Not on Ryan Hurst, though, just on Chick. I
No,
was like, I hate him. He's
I
the
told
worst.
him, but you know how I was like,
I
I
know.
want to be Chick Hogan.
Yeah.
Um, and he signed, so like when Christopher Judge signed the picture, he wrote Christopher Judge and then he wrote Indeed and then he wrote Teal'c and or no, he
Oh.
wrote Mary Kate, love and peace, Indeed from Teal'c or Christopher Judge, Teal'c. And Ryan wrote Mary Kate and then he wrote Boar Jerky. And then inside his statement, I but then he also was just like, then I went to go take my selfie with him, and I was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Why did because I put my phone back in my bag as I was about to go take the picture." And then his manager was like, "I mean, I could just stand there and pretend to take pictures of it, but like you paid for it, so I wouldn't really want to do that." And
Yeah.
so the pictures of me and Ryan, he's just laughing in them because we just like had such a good time, and they were
Ugh,
fantastic.
I love that so much.
They of the people that I've met for the podcast, like I was so nervous when I met Amanda because it was the first time I
Mhm.
like decided to talk to one of them about the podcast. And and the other three, like Ben was really, really great. And Joe was in the middle of a fight with his son, so he was really preoccupied and focused on that. But it was still interesting to have like a conversation with him. But these two were the ones who were just like so cool. They both took the business cards. They both talked to me about the podcast. Like they just were fantastic.
Honestly, I'm surprised you were able to even like talk to Richard Dean Anderson. So I'm like not at all surprised you didn't mention the podcast. So
Yeah, no, I almost
like,
passed out.
yeah.
I could have died when I met Richard Dean Anderson. I literally immediately left Amanda tapping and started sobbing. These two I was much cooler Although
Good,
I
good.
think the hour and a half waiting for Christopher Judge was the only reason I was cool. Because if I had like not had to wait in line and I hadn't like worked myself up to being able to talk to him, I
Yeah,
probably would have also cried. So
sure. Yeah, well, I am proud of you and I'm jealous. And I love that you met them and told them about us. And hello, if you're listening in the universe, 10 years from now, when you actually get to this episode, that is really far in. But
yeah, yeah.
that'd be fun. Well, somebody's listening because we got some new follows on Instagram. So
We did. We got some new followers on Instagram. Our friend on Twitter who said they were listening to the podcast, I was tweeting to them while I was in Phoenix because they were worried about both me and Christopher Judge hydrating enough because it was fucking hot as shit there.
look at
Um,
you. I love it.
yeah,
I'm so disconnected from Twitter. I'm much better at keeping up with Instagram, which is so unlike me. So
but yeah, but so everything is great, and also it's wonderful that I'm in such a good mood because this episode has got some very, very me things happening. So in order to keep this mood going, can you give us some spiritual guidance, lift us up?
I don't even know if I can. I can't. I should pull it up. Okay. All right. I don't think I've read this one yet. I'm going to say that for the next like 3 weeks until I start taking new ones down. All right. I'm rooting for you. You got this. The first step is always scary, but when you start to make yourself familiar with the ground you're walking in, you will eventually find yourself taking the path with ease. Keep on trying, believe in yourself because somebody out there is rooting for you too.
That's beautiful. Do we have an author on that one?
No.
Okay. I really thought
it's from the universe.
Beautiful. When you first said I'm rooting for you, I really thought it was about to be a Tyra Banks moment. We were all rooting for you. And I was like, oh,
no drama today.
No.
I mean, lots of drama today, but not for me.
Not for just for me. I've just cried so much today. It's totally fine.
I rewound this episode so many times. But I just kept rewinding different parts of it because I kept like missing something little because I was watching it at work as I do. And I just kept missing something. I was like, no. Like there was one scene I watched, I think 4 times. I don't remember which one it was now.
Well, this episode that Courtney rewound 52 times was Stargate SG-1, Season 4, Episode 5, Divide and Conquer. It was only rated 8.0 stars, which feels criminal.
It does. I would have 8.5, 8.6, no question.
Yeah. I personally probably would have given it like a 9.2, but
that's fair. I need to see the rest of the season because I mean, as of now, it's my favorite of the season.
Right.
But I don't know where we're going. And so like if this evolves more, that episode's going to be ranked higher. If it does not, this one's going to be
totally
ranked higher.
Fair. This episode had everything that I care about, except there was no teal. Yeah. Good teal heavy moments. But last episode was all teal. So there was some balance, which of course was great that was the last episode I watched before I talked to him because then I talked about that. It's wonderful. Anyway,
perfect.
This episode came out on July 28th, 2000. The number 1 book was the same with the Danielle Steele book. The number 1 movie, no, here's the thing. I realized that the number 1 movie is skewed a little bit for the Stargate episodes because Stargate aired on a Friday. So a lot of times the number 1 movie for that day is very much based on the fact that people go to see new movies. Because the number 1 movie for this day, like the previous week was What Lies Beneath, which was released that day and it stayed at number 2, but number 1 was because it came out this day, was Nutty Professor to the Clumps.
Bless it. Even had it not come out this day, that movie did really well. I saw it once, but like I saw it way after it came out.
Yeah.
And it didn't like stick with me, but it stuck with a lot of people.
It did. I do remember that movie because Eddie Murphy plays like every member of the family. It was like Tyler Perry movies before Tyler Perry.
It was right. Just to say that.
And I do quote this movie almost weekly because because in the scene where you're at when they're at there's a scene in the beginning of the movie where they're at the whole dinner table and the girlfriend's meeting the entire Clumps family and all of them, and they were talking about something that the little brother did that is not really that impressive, but like the mom is acting like it's really impressive, and she just goes, Hercules, Hercules, Hercules. Okay. And I do
like everyone, my dad used to quote that like every day.
Yeah, I do say that more often than I should for someone who did not enjoy that movie.
Right. Like I didn't even realize it was from that movie because I saw it so much later. But
Yeah.
that my dad must have seen it like the day it came out because I remember my childhood that was like one of his constant phrases.
Yeah. Yeah, no. My uncle, the one who I was with in Phoenix this weekend, I think I got it from him. He did that all the time.
Good times.
The number one song, speaking of our childhood and feeling real old, because that's what usually happens when we do this.
Okay, I have a comment when you get done. I'm so sorry. I just remembered.
The number one song on July 28th, 2000, there was some confliction. Some of the websites were saying that it was still the Matchbox 20 song from the week before. But the other websites that I could find, and the ones that I usually use, said that the number one song was, in fact, It's Gonna Be Me by NSYNC.
So this is perfect segue. Have you seen the new Meow Mix commercial?
Oh my God. Yes, I saw it the other day and I was like, what has your life come to, JC, that this is what you're doing with your life? JC and the Meow Mix commercial was literally, I was like, oh no, the 2000s are over. We're officially the generation where our stars can't get gigs and do cat food commercials.
No. Oh God. I first of all, I died. I saw it for the first time today while I was watching Exorcist. And so that was a weird place to watch. It was the middle of Exorcist.
Do you have the Hulu with commercials?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's when I saw it the other day because I was watching something on somebody else's like Hulu with commercials and I was like, oh.
I sent it to like everyone I know except you because I wanted to bring it up on the podcast. I just stopped. I immediately started like researching it after. I was like, did this just come out? What is happening? Is that Jessie Chazé? Like, what are we doing?
So the weirdest thing, this is so far off topic, but I don't care because this is important information. The weirdest thing is that I saw that commercial. And then about 2 hours later, I saw an Elise Myers TikTok where she was deep diving into her reasons why she thinks NSYNC is getting back together because of an Instagram story that Justin Timberlake posted.
I mean, here's the thing.
Okay, so this is what the video. Justin Timberlake posted an Instagram video that was clearly in a studio, and it was him and Lance, and the side of a producer's head clearly looked like Joey Fatone, and all the Instagram videos had was the eyeballs.
Well, I will say the three of them, I think, still like end up in studios and like do stuff together because they're all still in the media world. Yeah. But JC Chazé is not because he came out with his solo album that failed horribly. But he came out with that and then fell off the face of the earth and like never came back. And then Chris, he got like married or something and is thriving.
No, I lied. It wasn't Lance who was in the video. It was JC.
It was JC in the video? That's even crazier.
Yeah, because Elise is friends with Lance, so that wouldn't have made sense. Yes, it was JC who was in the video. Because I remember she kept calling him, because I remember in the TikTok video, she kept calling him JC Chavez, or Chavez, and then like her, but like not her. Like it was like an actor, because she was being a character, but like, so her, who was actually her, was like Chavez. Like, they kept doing the inserts to be like, that, no. But yeah.
What a way to make a comeback with a Meow Mix commercial and then bring the band back together. Like, I'm here for it. I mean, those Kia Soul commercials did it for some song. I don't know what song. There was a song that got really big again. I don't remember which one it was, though. With the hamsters. Do you remember?
Yeah, I do remember.
What a way to make a comeback.
Wasn't it the, like, Night at the Roxbury one. What is love?
Oh, I think so. I think so. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. So, look, marketing.
Yeah.
It's important, guys.
Well,
One day we
now
might learn how
that
to do it.
now that we have fallen so far off topic, it's okay because absolutely nothing happened this day. I was on page 8 of the Google News search before I was like, fuck it, I'm
Mm-mm.
just saying nothing. Um,
Once you get past 5, you know you've gone into the abyss. So,
yeah. The episode was directed by Martin Wood, written by Tor Alexander Valenza, and the editor was Brad Rhynes. Um,
excellent.
the guest star, weirdly, the two actual like recurring, like the two actual guests in this episode are people we've already talked about because it's weirdly a
Sure.
story that actually continued other stories. So the guest star I'm talking wild. The guest star I'm talking about is the actress who played Lieutenant Astor, because that was a big part of the episode.
That's the one
She,
I had to like rewind like 5 times. I was like, what am I missing? What's happening? What are we doing?
yeah. So her name is Lauren K. Roebuck. The K stands for Kristen, and most of her credits actually she was going by Kristen Roebuck at the time that she was doing a lot of this acting. She is best known for the movies Cats and Dogs.
Okay.
The,
I loved that.
yeah. This episode of Stargate and playing the mom in the movie The Edge of 17.
Oh, I really liked that movie. That was one of the first times I saw Haley Steinfeld.
Yeah.
Like in a real movie, not just like in passing or
Yeah.
something.
She has done an absolute boatload of Hallmark, like movies, TV
Good for
shows,
her.
all of it,
I'm
all
telling
of
you,
the
that's the way
Hallmark.
to go.
I think she played the best friend to Meghan Markle in one of Meghan Markle's Hallmark movies, which makes me want to like shoot myself. She was in an episode of Dead Like Me.
Which one?
The one where George goes camping with the Happy Time. Remember, she has to go on that retreat with the Happy Time people.
Yeah.
She was one of the people who was on the retreat. So not really anything important. But
Right. Yeah.
and she is actually from Ontario and she went to York University, which is in Toronto. I have friends who graduated from York, but also I have friends who taught me when I was in college that in Toronto, people say if you can hold a fork, you can go to York.
Well, standards.
So I don't know if
fine.
it's a good thing or not. But yeah,
She seemed to do all right. She came out okay.
Yeah, she came out fine. So that is that episode. And let's get into it. We start the episode back on the exact same shot of the Tok'ra planet, which we talked about last week, confused the shit out of me when it started playing.
Like 30 seconds into the season, and like it's running pretty consecutively, which makes me feel hope for this season.
Yeah, I was talking about the fact that Freya, this is the 3rd episode that her character's in, and I go, but Dan, it's better than that. It's not the 3rd episode her character's in ever. It's the 3rd episode in a row. That her character is in. That's a big deal.
Like, I remember who she is still because I've still seen her in the last 2 episodes.
Right.
So,
but so the Tok'ra are. Sorry, I wrote these notes on my computer in a way that is really difficult to read because I thought my notebook was in my bag and it wasn't. So the Tok'ra are coming to Earth to have a meeting with the president. And he has to appear before Congress, so they're like trying to negotiate the right time to do it. And the Tok'ra find out that like their existence is still a secret on Earth, and they're very confused by it. And they're like, "You do not understand people.
I don't understand how Earth works."
Yeah. So the High Counselor, like the Supreme High Counselor of the Tok'ra High Council, comes in, and he's the one who's going to meet with the president. And once he walks in the room, Graham just like suddenly goes fucking berserk and attacks literally everyone.
Yeah, I want you to know I want him to be a witch because the Supreme is like the highest level of witch.
Yeah,
And so that's how I wanted him to be. But I understand that he's not, which is
no.
disappointing. Don't worry, the rest of the episode makes up for it. It's fine. I got over
Yeah.
it.
But so like nothing works to stop him. People are like shooting him with like real guns, shooting him with Zach guns. Nothing is happening. He is absolutely lost his fine. And then he turns the weird Goa'uld device on his hand back on himself and just kills himself.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's where we
That's
get
how
the
it
credits.
starts.
So like cool. Great. This is already going so well. So then Sam shows up and she's like, "What the fuck happened?" And Jack's like, "Great question. Love to tell you. Don't know." Um, and Martouf is like, "Yeah, I don't believe you guys were complicit in this. Like, I don't think that you had anything to do with Major Graham's attack." And Freya's like, "No, they couldn't have been because he was definitely a Zaytark."
Yeah, that meant nothing to me. But I
Oh,
was
good.
thrilled to see Martouf back.
Yeah, no, don't worry. No one knew anything about a Zaytark. Jack was like,
I thought they were
"Excuse me."
calling them Zarks, but I think that's what Jack was calling them at one point. So
Yeah.
that's what I started calling them.
Yeah, no, Jack called them Zarks. He called them, said something about a Xanax detector. He
Mm-hmm.
just, Jack can't do words very well. Um, and so Martouf like starts to fight and he's like, "Don't talk about this." And Freya is like, interestingly, this episode, just quick, um, Freya is always Freya for the whole episode. Her Goa'uld does not speak one time.
No Anise. No Anise.
No, Anise. Um, but so Freya's like, "No, it actually is." And she explains to Jack and Sam that there is this thing that she has been working on and trying to fix and like theories, but nobody on the High Council like is like taking her seriously yet because it's not something they can really prove. But she believes that the Goa'uld have developed like a mind control technology where they basically like implant false memories in your head with like programming, and you have no idea that you're about to like kill someone and yourself until it
Impale
happens. Yes, no, straight up. Straight up. It is literally that's literally what it is.
Yep.
Uh and so then basically it's like turns out like she's like, "I do have oh, it says I wrote, which is a gold mind control, um, which puts in false memory, which is not proven because of course it isn't. Anise kind of always just jumps to conclusions. That's what I wrote. But this means that any person who has been in contact with the Goa'uld in the last 2 months could possibly be affected. So the treaty summit may be compromised and the president might be the target. Because so it may be that someone has gotten information about this treaty to the Goa'uld. So there's a lot
Also, my question.
Yeah.
Why on earth is the president of the United States the one everyone is concerned about? Do you really think he's the first target for the Goa'uld? Like, there's so many higher power people, the Nox, the
correct. No.
people, like,
here's and this,
but they really hardcore went into it.
And this is, I will tell you exactly why. Because in the history of the Goa'uld, no one really fights back. Like the Nox do their thing and they stay away. The Asgard do their thing and they stay away. And the Tok'ra try to infiltrate it, but they're not very successful. Nobody fights back until Stargate appears. And these humans come in. And these humans are American soldiers. And
well then, Hammond should be the target, not the president. President's not doing it.
Okay. But in every situation where anyone with any Goa'uld knowledge has been in contact with any of these people, with the Stargate, with everything, they have been introduced to this idea of the military. And every time something big happens, Hammond makes comments or goes back to needing to talk to the president. So in this very skewed, singular lens look at what the world is, the US president seems like he's a lot more powerful than he actually is.
That's true. Another question on that topic.
Yeah.
Hammond is talking to a doctor on the red phone. I don't know if this is the scene or the next one, but isn't that meant to be only for the president?
He only talks to the president in this episode.
He called him doctor. Did I mishear that?
I think you misheard that.
He was stopped and I was like, you can't use the red phone unless you're talking to the president.
No, the only two people who ever use the red phone. There's only two people who ever use the red phone. The president and his granddaughters. That's it. If he's on the red phone, if he is on the red phone ever in the series, those are the only two people he's talking to: the president.
Well, that's what
his granddaughters.
I must have misheard then.
Yeah,
because I wrote that down. I was like, "What is happening? You can't talk to people on the red phone."
No. He's talking to the president because he's talking about delaying the treaty in case everything is wrong.
Gotcha.
So Freya has a way to figure out if someone is a Za'Tark. But Martouf strongly does not care for this. He's like, it's not tested. It might not work. I don't know about this. So they talk to SG-1. It's decided, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes things happen that we don't see. But the next thing we see is that Freya and Martouf go to SGC to test everyone. And then we see a cute scene where Hammond is talking to Frasier about what to do about it, because Anise / Freya has a really strong track record at SGC, and so Hammond is like, what do we know? And Janet's like, absolutely nothing about before he left for the Tok'ra or after, when I examined his body, told me anything was wrong with Graham. There is nothing. I can't do it. This alien tech, whatever it is beyond my understanding. So we are completely in the Tok'ra's hands, which everyone is thrilled about. Let me tell you, particularly Jack. He loves it.
He does. He loves when other people are in charge.
So then they are like, okay, well, let's start with Major Graham's unit, because that's the most likely place for there to be other people infiltrated, like Za'Tark. So Lieutenant Astor is brought in, and she goes for questioning, and the device that they use for questioning is basically like this really fancy lie detector, but it can tell if you're lying even if you don't know you're lying, because it basically takes just no, hold on, let me finish my sentence, and then I saw your face because you had something. And basically it takes your conscious memory and your subconscious memory and lines them up, and if they don't match, there's a lie there, which I think is a way cooler way to figure out if someone's lying than like their heart rate.
Oh yeah, heart rate's lie. My heart races. I'd lie on everything. Oh yeah, I'd lie about my name on accident. Like
sometimes I lie and I literally don't know I'm lying. I just genuinely forget what the fuck I'm talking about.
Yeah. So I think because how I like to steal this technology and bring it to our world.
Yeah.
I think this technology could super be used for like Alzheimer's care. Like you can help with like memories. You could test the different parts of the brain, maybe. Like obviously it's subconscious and conscious, but if you can like pinpoint more like areas of the brain, that would be so dope. So that's what I decided to choose for now.
Your excitement, I thought you knew what the trivia for this episode was, because there's only one piece of trivia for this episode, and it has to do with
I made my own.
This machine is very much the same machine as the Voight-Kampff, which is what they use in the Blade Runner to detect if someone's a replicant or not.
That like last year. I
Yeah.
liked Blade Runner surprisingly. It was a little slow, but
Oh,
yeah.
I still haven't seen Blade Runner 2049, but I really liked the first one. And
I think I watched it. I think as we all know, I'm watching them in order, and I think that one
not
came up already.
not Blade
Oh,
Runner.
I don't think I haven't seen Blade Runner then. I'm making stuff up.
No. Blade
What is
Runner,
Blade Runner about?
it's from the 80s. It's with Harrison Ford. It is a
Oh no.
it is so Blade Runner is the name of the movie, but it's based on the book Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick, which is like a staple in sci-fi books. But basically there are these things called replicants, which are look like humans, but they're not humans, and they're androids. And Harrison Ford is a police officer whose job is to find them.
I see.
But this machine that we see in this episode is the same machine that they use to detect the replicants in Blade Runner.
I see. No, I am disconnected. They use something weird on people's brains in Blade. May not at all be related to this,
not at
or
all.
memory even. Who knows?
Well, Blade is about vampires, so
yeah,
slightly different than androids.
Very, very different than and Stargate. But it's fine. You should watch it though if you haven't seen it. It's good though.
It is. I just, as you were saying that, I was like,
Snipes and all.
I was like, she is thinking of a different thing than I'm thinking of.
Different world.
Correct.
Yeah.
You should also watch Blade Runner if you haven't.
Yeah.
So the device says that she is lying and she is Zatark. But in order to make sure before they do anything, they ask her to tell the story again. Because sometimes, they said sometimes it can like light up if the way you tell the story is like the wrong sequence of events from how it actually happened, because technically what you're remembering and what actually happened are different. So they were like, just slow down and say everything that happened in that moment again.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't. So they don't really know what to do. They're gonna like lock her up and try to figure it out. But Freya talks to Jack and Hammond about like a potential procedure that like may be able to remove the false memory, like the programming under the false memories, but it attacks that part of the brain. So it may potentially ruin anything stored in that part of the brain.
Yeah.
So, it's like when we used to lobotomize people to fix their mental problems.
Right. Did they say what part of the brain it was, or did I miss that?
No, they just kept saying that part of the brain. They didn't actually talk about what part of the brain it was.
Would have been nice if they said what part it was. So I'm going to say it was the frontal lobe.
So it's just like an alien tech lobotomy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. Sounds legit.
Yeah, obviously. That's exactly how Hammond feels too. And Jack. Jack is
smart.
Jack is very anti-lobotomy.
Yeah. I mean, he's like anti anything he doesn't understand. So I get it.
And which is funny because there's a lot he doesn't understand.
But if it's like military, he's like, yeah, that's fine. I understand the military enough to know that I don't understand anything going on and I'm okay with it. But like, this is alien technology and I don't.
Yeah, and sometimes he's like, if it's something that he can defer to Sam or Jack or Sam or Daniel, and they can just like nod their head at him, he's like, I respect that I am stupid. But if it's somebody else who is not Sam or Daniel telling him something, he does not respect that he is stupid. Like he's like, I know my limits, but my limits do not include you.
He's like Parks and Recs. What's the guy's name? I know more than you. Just like, what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Oh, is that? Oh, I don't remember which character says that though.
It's the main guy. I can't think of his real name or his character name at the moment, but like the manager guy.
Oh, right.
He's in the Hobby Lobby and they like are asking him about tools and he just hands them a piece of paper and he's like, I know more than you. Or he says, I know more than you, and he hands another piece of paper later on and he's like, I make my own rules or something. Like,
Yes.
but yeah.
Yeah, that is the one, the mustache one who's married to Megan
Yeah.
Mullally in real life.
Hmm.
Nick Offerman is
Yes. Yes. Nick
the
Offerman.
man's name, but what
Yes.
the character's
I have
name?
no idea.
I am so dumb that I can't think of this. I know
I haven't
it.
watched it in like 8 years. Like, I don't know. I don't even
Um,
know.
no, my favorite scene in Parks and Rec will always be the time that April scheduled all of his meetings on March 31st because she didn't know that it
I
was
just
a real
thought it
day.
wasn't real.
Yeah.
Yes. That one's so funny. Ugh.
Um, so Ron Swanson, that's his name.
Yes. See, you know everything. You don't even need a memory device.
Yeah,
Meanwhile, I
no.
need a memory device. I need it just for my general memories. Like,
You're like,
I
am
don't
I
know what they
lying
are.
today? Like, did I
Yeah.
did I make that up?
Or is this real life? Like, so
Um,
it's fine.
but basically, they decide that they're going to give Lieutenant Astor the choice herself because this procedure might kill her. But also, if they figure out what is the programming that's going to trigger, she's going to kill herself anyway. So, like,
Right.
hmm,
So you might die or you definitely will die. Like those are your options.
yeah. So
Good. That's good.
yeah, she agrees to do it. Um, but the programming doesn't, and she's like really scared in that scene where she's like terrified is really sad. But then the procedure doesn't work because it just triggers the programming. So she starts trying to
Yeah.
like shoot everybody. She steals a gun.
Not cool, dude.
Not cool. And then because she doesn't have a fancy little Goa'uld device at the time, she just like blows her own brains out, which was a little heavy actually.
I literally wrote this is an intense episode. Like this is wild.
Yeah. So they decide to postpone the meeting with the president, which is this is when we see him on the bread phone for the first time. And they're like, we need to just continue testing everyone. We need to know if there are any more Zatarks on the base. And Jack's like, okay, so who's up next? And she goes, SG-1. Sick.
Yeah. Sorry to the
Yes.
wolves.
Great. So SG-1 is next, and they each go through their story of what happened when they went to the blow up Apophis's new ship. And they're all telling the story of the upgrades episode from their own point of view. And it turns out that when Jack and Sam were both unconscious after their bracelets fell off, it is possible that they were contacted by the Goa'uld because they are the only two who are testing positive for lying and potentially being Zatark.
Oh no.
And then we have a scene where Jack and Sam are talking to each other about it, and they are both afraid it might be true. Like there's a part of them that's like, what if we really don't remember that?
Well, like how are you to know?
Right.
Like your
Like
body
they're
moves in
like
such like
doubting they're
vulnerable
like doubting
states.
their own memories. They're like, because we wouldn't
Yeah.
even know. Like, and it was so sad when Sam was like, is there any part of you that's afraid it could be true? And Jack was like, a little bit, yeah.
And when she was like, "Don't come near me, I might have this," he's like, "Oh, I might too. I'm in the room across the hall from you." Like, I was like,
Yeah. She was like, I don't know what's gonna trigger me. And he goes, us. And she goes, I'm sorry, who what?
yeah.
Um, but no one's else affected. So um the summit's back on, but Jack and Sam are being like locked away while this is happening. Um, and then Freya goes to apologize to Jack and thank him for saving her life like 3 or 4 times. And then she just like kisses him.
She's so shady. I don't trust her. I still don't trust her. I know we've seen her 3 episodes in a row. I still don't trust her. She's trying to move in.
I it was uncomfortable. It didn't feel shady. It just felt
Oh no, not like in a
wrong.
like I'm trying to trick you because I'm a Tok'ra and I'm trying to do this
Oh,
way. Like in a shady, like I'm a bad person. You shouldn't like me way because I'm trying to get in the way of other stuff that's going on in your life, like Sam.
oh, yeah. See, I can understand why you would feel that way. I just felt like it was a Have you ever just like read the signals from someone entirely wrong and been so embarrassed you didn't know how to like function?
So many times. So many times in my life.
I had secondhand embarrassment for her.
Mm.
Like,
She
I don't,
like took
I
too
don't,
long to like figure it out though. She like
yeah.
really dove in.
Well, like, I don't know if you remember last summer when I went on my first date with Dan, and I literally it wasn't until he said at the end of the date that he hadn't talked to his family about what was going on with us yet because he didn't want to get their hopes up, that I was sure that it was a date because I had convinced myself that I had read every signal he sent me entirely wrong.
Oh, I recall. Yes,
I
I'm
felt
familiar.
all of that for her in that moment. I
Okay,
was
but she's
like,
known him for like 3 days. Like this is a little different.
yeah, but literally the first thing he said to her was that she was hot.
Well, well, yeah, but you know,
So obviously I am fully invested.
I just don't like her. I'll think of a reason later, as the
Okay.
great Carrie Clark says.
Um, but it was so she kissed him and then she goes, "Oh, geez." She's like, my symbiote would rather I chose Daniel, but she'll have to suffer in silence."
The
And I
two
was
men
like,
that always get us into trouble with women. Great. Those are the two we're
Great.
choosing between.
But
Love
also,
it.
could you imagine if I was like, "Hey, Courtney, I think you're really hot, and like the intelligent part of me wishes I picked your best friend, but I'm gonna fuck you instead."
I would cry just right then and there. I would just burst into tears. Like I wouldn't even know how to respond.
Think?
Like it's nice to be attractive, but like I definitely am like way smarter. I felt like
Right.
in general.
Um, and she's like, "Oh, you're involved with someone else." And he literally just goes, "That's not really the point." And then he gets awkward as shit. And you're like, "What the fuck is happening here?"
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so then after the most awkward scene on the entire history of the show, more awkward than Daniel not knowing he was getting married in the movie,
Sure. That was the best scene in this entire show. The only good thing
Freya
about the movie.
Freya goes back to Hammond and everyone, and she's like, "I'm a little worried because I think that Jack and Sam might try to kill themselves anyway.
Little Romeo and
If
Juliet action.
I don't
I know
think
it
it's
wasn't that way,
that."
but it's not.
She's
Just
like,
like to add a little extra drama when I
yeah,
can.
she's like, because I think the reason that like the one of the things that caused the triggering of what happened with Lieutenant Astor was the programming not being able to be completed. So if they can't complete the program, they might just like Harikari anyway. Um, so Martouf goes to Sam and tells him or tells her that he's like, these are your options. You can like try again, or you can like maybe try to kill yourself anyway when the president gets here and we don't let you out of the room.
Right.
And Sam's like, whew, Sophie's choice, my dude.
Yeah.
And which really funny story. A couple years ago, my friend kept saying things were a Sophie's choice about like really minuscule, like awful things about
Everyone was. That was
like
like a
which
fad for a while.
yeah, he's like which mimosa to drink. Oh, Sophie's choice. And I was like, "Do you know what that movie's about?" And I explained what Sophie's choice actually was, and everyone was like, "We're fucking horrible human beings."
Yeah. Like I know that I've not seen it, full disclosure,
Yeah.
but I am very familiar with like what it is.
Yeah. This one actually could be a little bit considered like
I
that
mean,
because
there's death involved, so yeah, sure.
it's like, do I potentially kill myself now or potentially kill myself later?
Right.
Um, so Daniel does the same for Jack. He's the bearer of bad news there. And then Jack like awkwardly trauma dumps everything that happened to Freya on Daniel, including saying that the snake wanted to date Daniel.
That's just
And
like
then
so awkward.
and then he just silently stares at a yo-yo and Daniel says, "These are the Jack O'Neill moments I'll miss the most." My Daniel
Yeah.
was like, "What is this show? Why do we watch this?"
How is he after today? Is he surviving? Because I'm a little shook after watching our 2 episodes and him to go through this,
Um,
not to be as invested.
well, I think anything that he felt after the shows was then ruined by my complete mental breakdown after both of the shows, completely unrelated to the show's audience. Don't worry, I'm just mentally unstable.
Like she's
And
been on a plane.
yeah, I flew. I'm jet lagged. I'm hormonal. I'm somebody. It's not me though. So
We don't know her.
I don't know her. Um, so then they decide that they're not going to do the procedures. They're just going to sedate Jack and Sam while the president's there and deal with it after.
Yeah, just like save that for later.
Right. Which also potentially gives them the time to study their brain scans while they're sedated and potentially figure out a way to deal with this. So, like, not the worst idea. But Jack is like, you know what? No, I really don't want to be a vegetable. And I really also don't want Sam to kill herself. So just do it to me. We'll figure it out. It'll just save me. Like if it works and I'm saved, great. And if not, then you can save Sam.
Right. Yeah, like he really throws himself away very quickly in a lot of situations. Like we've already found a way to delay this, and you're like, you know what, JK, like this is the Romeo and Juliet part of it.
Yeah, for
It's like
sure.
just kill me, it's fine. And then we'll like figure out the rest later. And it's like, no, we need you both alive to figure out the rest later. Like
And Sam is like devastated.
it's like fair.
Um, and then we just like move on from that real fast. And
Yeah.
Persis arrives to a very decked out gate room. And we're getting ready for the president. Hammond is going to go retrieve him on the surface. Everything's going to be great. Um, and then Janet starts to sedate Sam, and Sam is like not responding very well to the sedative, uh, which also just happens all randomly all the time in the show. I don't know why after this many times of sedating these people, they haven't figured out what dosage of the sedative
Figured it out yet.
works for them. And like obviously Sam needs a slightly higher dose because she still has Gould protein in her system, but like she doesn't need a teal'c dose. But like you would think that Janet would have figured it out by now.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
But when she does start to sedate her, Sam starts having flashbacks and memories and tells Janet that they aren't I was just about to say Krakatoa Daytarks. Yeah, I was
They
going to say
also
they
are Krakatoa, but they're not. It's not Roanoke. We're in the wrong universe.
I literally could not think of what the word Zaytark was, and the only word I could think of was Krakatoa. I was
That
like,
was like a harder word to remember, but I get it. I get it. That would have also been like I get Krakatoa before I get Zaytark. So like, you know.
So then Janet like runs in and makes Freya stop the procedure. And they bring Sam in, and Sam's like, "Can we talk alone for a second?" So everybody leaves the room, and she's like, "Jack, we aren't Daytarks." He's like, "Are you sure?" And she's like, "Yeah. It said we're lying because it's." They don't say this, but they made a very big point when they were testing Lieutenant Astor to ask her about her emotions and how she felt during it, because your emotions do indicate how you remember things. And she's like, "We weren't lying. I mean, we kind of were." because it's something that we don't talk about.
Never
And
let go, Jack.
he just goes, "Oh, that."
They're both just like obviously blatantly ignoring it, but both know they're ignoring it. Like,
Right.
and that's the thing, like being based on emotions. If you ask me to tell you the story now and you ask me to tell you the story 6 hours from now, you're gonna think I'm a Zaytark. It does not matter what the story is, and it does not
Yeah.
matter how I feel about it. My emotions will have changed at least
Right,
enough that will make a difference.
but if you remember how you felt in that moment, like
I won't.
that's
I'll feel like I felt a different way. I'll get
oh
like
well.
angrier about it. I'll be like, oh, I was so worked up, and I would not have been. I would have not been at all.
So you are just not stable. But so Sam's like,
Just
okay,
not a lot of emotions.
please retest Jack. So they retest Jack, and
This was so
yeah,
cute and so awkward.
so they're like, why? Like, why didn't you leave? And he's like, because I didn't want Sam to die. And they're like, that's it. And they kept pushing to make sure that he wasn't like lying. And he was like, well, because the C4 was going to explode and I would have rather died myself than lose Carter. And they were like,
I
why?
almost cried.
And he goes,
Why? Yeah, like you don't know.
because I care about her a lot more than I'm supposed to. And I just squealed.
Uh, we've made it. We've made it to real acknowledgement of this relationship.
And then when he says that and he looks at her, his lying thing goes all the way back down to not lying at all.
Mm-hmm.
So then they retest Sam and they don't show us the same thing, but basically they show us that she's also, when she admits how she feels about Jack, telling the truth.
Yeah.
And no, we don't really address the fact that Teal'c and Janet are both very uncomfortable with what just happened.
As everyone would be. Although, like, it's not like it's not obvious. Like, you're surprised. You're surprised by this. Like,
I totally knew. Like Janet and Sam have talked about this before.
right.
But it's also never been like official on record kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And Teal'c is just like, why? Okay.
It's just like this. Why is
But
this even an issue? Why are we dealing with this?
well, but also because Teal comes from a world where the rules of the military
They're
are
soldiers.
so important and they're soldiers and feelings, there's
Mm-hmm.
not time for that.
Right.
And it can compromise missions.
Right.
If they're
Absolutely.
focused on
Obviously.
each other. But then Sam is like, nothing has to leave this room. Like we don't ever have to talk about this again. And it's not a like I don't want to. It's like a we both know this cannot be a thing. Because she's a major and he's a colonel and also her direct in command and
Supervisor. Yeah.
yeah. But then they're like, I don't really know what to do next because we've tested everyone on the base and no one here is a Zaytark, and we tested everyone coming in from the planet and they're all fine too, so everything should be okay. And Jack brings up the point that nobody's fucking addressed so far, and he's like, what about you, Freya? And she goes, well, I haven't been off world in more than 2 months, so like I wouldn't. No, I don't think she was. She was like, I've been in a lab for the last 2 months. I haven't been in any contact with anyone to ever even have been at risk. Turns out there's one person on this entire little excursion that nobody tested, though. And that person
I
is
yelled.
Martu.
I literally, my notes start with, oh my gosh, my favorite person's back. And they end with, not Martoof. That's all. That's literally start to finish.
I started the episode by going, Dan, just warning you, someone really important is going to die today. And then he started listing all of the people he thought it could be. And I go, no, not that important.
He is that important.
No, he is, but his first two guesses were Hammond and Frasier. And I go, no, not like that. No.
Our show's still going on the same way as it has.
Correct. It's not affecting the day-to-day of the episodes.
Just my heart. It's fine.
I go, only like second tier important, not first tier important. But so Martouf, they bring in the president, which is the triggering event for Martouf's programming. He starts to shoot everybody. When he goes to turn the gun on himself, he looks to Sam and asks her for help, and she kills him with the Zap gun rather than him killing himself with the gold tech, so that there's a chance for them to still be able to use his brain to figure it out and study him.
So sad.
So smart, so sad. Also good for fucking General Hammond, because guess what? That wasn't the president. He was not about to risk the president's life.
No.
And he apologizes to Persis. He's like, I'm very sorry to have lied to you. But I wasn't sure we could trust it yet. And Persis is not mad. He's like, hopefully that is the last time either of us has to deceive each other in any way, because I feel you, man. Yeah. And of course, I'm sure Persis is also upset because Martouf is very important to the Tok'ra.
And he's the kindest human, or Tok'ra.
Yeah.
But you gotta kill him because he was the only person that Sam had a maybe thing with. We gotta get rid of him so she can have her thing with Jack. So I get it.
Okay, if we're getting rid of the things that are standing in the way of Sam and Jack, we also have to get rid of the entire military. And
let's do it. I'm in.
Well, on that note, do you have any questions, comments, concerns?
I'm angry.
That's fair.
That's fair. I'm sad. Because I love Martouf.
I do love Martouf. I am singularly focused all of the time, though, and I care much more about the fact that Jack told Sam.
Totally fair. I also reacted to that, but then Martouf died, and I reacted to that, and I was like, now I just have emotions. There's just too many floating around.
Yeah. Speaking of emotions,
and I also don't think that we're gonna go like directly back to the Jack and Sam thing for like at least a few episodes.
Oh.
So if not season. So I wasn't thrilled.
Right. It is Stargate, and we've seen how they handle love in the past. So maybe season 7. If the Daniel Share story is anything to go off of, Jack and Sam won't get together till at least season 7.
Right. So I don't want to get myself into that headspace if I'm never going to see it again. So,
Fair enough. With the headspace that you are in, though, who do you want to punch?
Rhea. I'm telling you, I just don't like her. I don't trust her. I think she's going to do something bad. I understand she has not really yet. She's done things that didn't make sense and that were like a little shady, but like ended up fine in the end. But just not for me, not it.
My problem is the person who I think made the biggest mistake in the episode is Martouf. Because he should have been tested when Persis and the other guards were tested.
Yeah.
But I also can't bring myself to punch him on his death day, because he's actually a good person who didn't deserve to die.
Right.
So I think that the person I will have to punch would be That guard who gave Jack a real funny look after Freya kissed him, because I can't think of anyone else.
That's fair. I feel like not really anyone else was
Yeah, and there was not
doing
really
anything
the thing
inherently
is
wrong.
the thing is we were dealing with bad Goa'uld tech and things that made good people do bad things. We weren't dealing with a bad guy
Bad
this
people, right?
episode. So that makes it tricky. But of course that's one of the great things to love about sci-fi is that there's not always a bad guy.
Yeah.
Um, who is your MVP?
Sam. Because she figured it all out. She saved everyone's lives, and in the end, she held Martooth as he died. She just was MVP, no doubt.
Yeah. Jack is mine, obviously, because
Yeah,
when he said I care about her more than I'm supposed to, I melted, and I don't think I will be unpuddled for quite some time.
he would have been my like other MVP if I hadn't gone with Sam.
I mean, and Sam's definitely the more plot-wise
Mm-hmm.
important character, but I love Richard Dean so much.
Feel that.
So, there's that. Um, well, next week we are going very far away from what
Ugh, of
we've
course
been
we are.
working with. I mean, we did have 3 episodes in a row that were connected.
Get my
We
hopes up just to tear me
I
down.
know. We did have 3 episodes in a row that were connected, so we do have to kind of take a step back for a second. But the episode we're about to watch is one of the highest rated and most talked about episodes of the show.
Ooh.
So it's not
Love
necessarily
that.
a bad thing that we're taking a step
Okay,
back.
okay.
So with that, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, stories about people you've met at Comic Cons, things that you want to do, cleaning tips for Courtney and her domestic
Insights
life.
into the I've cleaned everything. It's done now.
Mm.
Insights into NSYNC getting back together.
Right. Yeah. All of these things are important information. Please email us at deathandaliens@gmail.com or follow us on any of the social media at Death and Aliens. You can also follow me everywhere at EMKAY_superstar.
And you can follow me at CE Cloud 13.
And with that, we will see you on Thursday for what will be one of the best Thriller Thursday episodes in quite some time. I can just tell you right now.
I will tell you, I was starting to lose faith in the show. I was not feeling connected enough. And then I watched the episode and I was like, all right, I'm in. Let's do this.
Yeah. If you want to hear my reaction to this episode, which I'm sure you do, you got to turn it on Thursday.
I haven't heard it yet, but you definitely do.
All right. We will see you all then.
Bye.
Bye.